Good evening once again. This time I thought I would go through a complete Mexican meal. Tonight we're going to be having small sized burritos, and I'm going to be making my guacamole recipe, which is pretty well known. Anybody that's had it has absolutely gone apeshit for it. The very first time I ever, well, let me give you a backstory first. The way I came up with it initially was I had had guacamole a few times in the past, and it was always just this kind of bland, sort of pasty thing that didn't really have any flavor or any other textures other than just mush. You know, it was just green mush to me. I was bored with it, and I thought, well, what's the point? Why would people like guacamole? And then I went to Chipotle, and I had their guacamole on one of my burritos, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I thought it was fantastic. And I think that I've not only captured that recipe, but I've been able to improve on it in a few ways. And everyone that's had my guacamole has absolutely loved it. Some people have said that they were tempted to lick the bowl when they were eating from my guacamole. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start off cooking some ground beef and onions. That's going to be for the tacos that we're going to have. Well, burritos, really. We don't have any taco shells. And then while that's cooking, I'm going to be preparing the guacamole. Now, what we're going to be using here for the burritos is Taco Bell taco seasoning mix. I know I could be using something a little bit more refined. I could be making the seasoning mix myself, but it's 90 cents, you know. And it tastes pretty good to me, so it's fine. Chopped white yellow onions. It's about half of a medium-sized onion. Pound of ground beef. That's going to be for the meat. Alright. It's going to be for the meat. It is the meat. That's going to be for the burritos, obviously. And the cheese that we're going to use is going to be queso fresco. It's if you look here, it's got a little bit of a give to it. It's a semi-soft kind of cheese, so it'll melt okay. And yeah. I've never actually used it before, but I saw it on sale and I thought it would be fun to experiment with it, and hopefully it gives a good flavor. Now for the ingredients for the guacamole, it's going to be kosher salt, avocados. Of course, you can't have guacamole without avocados. It's impossible. Lemon juice. I actually started using lemon juice and lime juice because I wanted to come to sort of a half and half sort of thing with my wife, because she doesn't really care for lime juice, but she wanted the acidity in it. So eventually I said, well, why don't we come to, an agreement to where we use both of them, use a little less lime juice, replace it with a little lemon juice, but it actually tastes pretty good. I chop up some tomatoes, put those in there. Minced garlic that adds a very good flavor to the guacamole. I use about half of a jalapeno, about this size, not very big. I don't put any of the seeds in it. If I was making it for myself, or if I was making it for a party of people, and I knew that they wouldn't have a problem with spicy food, I might leave a few of the seeds in, or I might use a whole jalapeno. But because I know my wife doesn't like jalapenos too spicy, I don't put the whole thing in. Minced red onion. I'm going to use about half of this. At the most, maybe even less than that, because I feel like if there's too much red onion, it can be a little bit bitter, it can be too much of a contrast to the flavor. And cilantro. Fresh cilantro. Cilantro is that magic ingredient that just seems to bind everything together in a really good guacamole. It has this fresh taste, this herby taste. It's very hard to describe unless you've had it, but it's something that I would say is essential to making a really good guacamole, and it's pretty cheap too. So yeah, definitely you want to pick it up. Make sure you have it as part of the dish. Now I'm gonna start cooking the meat and the onions. My skillet has been heating up on medium heat. This is an electric skillet. I'm going to coat it with oil. Yep, that's good. Don't want to make sure any of the beef sticks. Gotta crumble it out on the way out.
Go.
Alright, and what you want to do is just be attentive to this. Make sure that none of the ground beef sticks. You know, mix it up. Make sure that the oil coats everything. And this is just canola or vegetable oil. You don't really want to use olive oil for a Mexican dish, although I suppose you could. Depends on your own personal taste. And as soon as I get this stirred up effectively, then we'll start taking care of the ingredients for the guacamole. As you can see, once you move it around, sizzling goes down. That's just what we were looking for. Now what you want to look for in here is, you'll know it's done when the onions are translucent and the beef has browned all the way. And you don't want to have gigantic chunks of beef. If at all possible, you want to have them as fine and minced as you possibly can. At least I do. I think it makes for a better taco that way. Okay. Now, over here. And of course everything has been thoroughly washed. First thing we're going to look at is going to be avocado. We're going to split it like this. Just take your knife, roll it around until you split it, have it attached like that. Pops right out, doesn't it? And as you can see, this is a perfect avocado. You got a little bit of sort of a light greenish yellow on the inside with a green on the outside. You know it's bad when the avocado is turned, and there's a little brown there, but that's okay. You know it's turned bad when there's way too much brown on the inside of the avocado and it is gray. That's a very bad sign. And what you want to look for on the outside is for it to be sort of this like darker, like this really dark olive, almost brown color. And if you look at my thumb there, it kind of pushes in a little bit. It's got some give to it. If it's hard, it's not ready yet. And now what you want to do to get the sort of the meat out of here, as it were, is to take a spoon and go from the bottom part of the avocado and just scoop the back. Look at that. See how easy that was? And we got all the meat out of there. We're just going to do that with the other one too. Just go in the bottom, scoop it in the back, and plop it on out. knock out any of the other stuff you get in there. I'm going to check on the meat. Still a little pink. Next avocado. Remember, you want to just roll your knife. Oh, see, that one was tender. Just came right apart on us. That's okay. Take your spoon at the bottom, right on through the back. Avocados are so delicious. They have so many different uses. Salads, it's become popular to put them on BLTs now. All kinds of sandwiches. Excuse me, I got the little top thing back there. I don't want that. Yeah, there's even a recipe that I saw, I tried out for myself, which was you take an avocado and that's alright. You take an avocado and you take a little bit more out of the inside part of here, and you can actually put a smaller sized egg in there and cover it with cheese and pop it in the oven for a little while until the egg cooks, and it makes a nice little convenient healthy breakfast for you. So there's that, and of course you can season it with other things to make it interesting, like cayenne pepper is a good idea. And here's another tip while I think about it. A lot of people say they love making guacamole, but it goes bad on them quickly. It'll turn brown and it'll become undesirable and, go bad. And, everybody's always asking for ways that they can avoid that. Well, one of the most simple ways that you can do that is in this recipe itself, just by adding the acidity, the lime juice and the lemon juice. But another way to keep the guacamole from spoiling is to add, this is going to be, it's the little nubby there, we don't want that. Sometimes these little nubs come out through the top and we want to make sure they don't get in there, because they turn out crunchy and you don't want them. But one way to keep the guacamole staying fresh is to actually, the pits that you got out of the center of the guacamole, or the avocado rather, you just leave those in the guacamole dip, and that will actually prolong the life of the guacamole, and it'll keep it from spoiling as quickly. Now I'm going to add some lemon juice and lime juice. Just need to get a fork. Come on, there we are. Gotta get some seeds out of there. Just use the fork. Make sure you don't get too many seeds in here. Try to avoid that. I think I just got a seed in there, but it'll be okay. It won't hurt anybody. Alright. That's enough lemon juice. Let's use some lime juice now. I like the lime juice a little better myself, but wifey doesn't care much for the lime juice. You probably use about half of half of a lemon because there's so much juice in it, and probably about a full lime. Not as much juice in it. And let's see how that beef's doing. Lost one of those little buggers in the sink. There we go, got it. Oh. Yeah, there we are. There we go. Now you might want to make sure that you don't put those things in garbage disposal. That's very bad. Well, and ground beef is ready to be drained. I just got my little colander out here. Yeah, apparently you're not supposed to drain the ground beef in the sink because it puts grease down the pipes. But I don't know, whatever. If you chase it with hot water, it'll pretty much fix any problem you have. Alright. Grease is taken care of. Just a moment. Now we want to add the seasoning. Actually smells pretty good. The difference between this and actual Taco Bell meat is it'll be real meat. Allegedly, right? Okay, so now we add, I believe, 3/4 cups of water. Yes. There we are. And just stir it up. Wait till it comes back to a simmer, and eventually it'll reduce down. So that takes care of that. And suck on a lemon. It's supposed to be good for you. Oh, that's good. All right. Tools flying all over the place over here. This kitchen's possessed. Alright. Now, first I like to mash the avocado. And I believe this is actually a potato masher. But we always like to have things that have multiple uses, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, look at that. Look how easy of a job that does. Saves me a hell of a lot of time and energy if I were to use the fork.
Made It made a great wedding present.
Now, so look there, and the mashing is all done. It's just that easy, folks. Now, if you don't have that, you don't have a potato masher, first of all, I pity you. Second of all, just use your fork, and you know, you want to do this kind of motion here, you know, just smashing it around. And that's the reason why you want to have ripe avocados, because if you don't have ripe avocados and they're hard, you well, you'll get some muscle mass going, but it'll take you a while to crush them, unless you like them chunky, which you might. Alright, going back over the meat here. Back up to a simmer. Just want to come over here and say hello every once in a while. Make sure that it doesn't splash out of control. That's why we use these things to keep grease from going all over the place. Now, I'm going to start chopping up and distributing the ingredients that I'm going to mix in to the guacamole. Remember, you want to have minced red onion. And I'd say that, honestly, for about 4 avocados, this is about enough. You don't want to have a tremendous amount of bite of red onion when you make guacamole, or it'll just kill the flavor of the avocado and everything else you've got in there. Just put it into the guacamole. Beautiful. Alright. Next thing is the jalapeno. Do not touch your eyes when you're working with a jalapeno. Even something as light as a jalapeno can burn your eyes if you touch it with your fingers, unless of course you have gloves on and then you take the gloves off. But you know. Now, there's a way to go about this where you just kind of roll the pepper. Works better with bell peppers, but look at that. Look how much of the jalapeno got cleaned off, as opposed to the chunk of the seeds on the inside. So, and I'm going to scrape the remaining seeds off my plate. Make sure they do not wind up in here. About half. Again, you want this minced this is something that's different than the red onion in that this will, in my opinion, enhance the flavor of the guacamole, because it'll be something that'll kick in after the initial taste. It'll hit you. It'll be like a pleasant sort of spicy aftertaste, if you will. If you like that sort of thing. If you don't like any kind of spice really like that, if you don't like jalapeno, then by all means don't put it in there, but I think it adds a lot, so I choose to put it in there. And let's see the meat. Yeah, it looks hunky-dory, so we're just going to turn the heat off of that and just let it be. Now, tomato. Come up here, take the core out. There. Adding tomato to your guacamole is actually something that will, well, I don't think it's a traditional thing to do necessarily. It's something that will stretch it farther. And it adds a good flavor, adds a little bit more acidity. Going back to that whole acidity thing of preserving the guacamole, so it's good for that too. And it doesn't have to be precise chop here. It gives it a little rustic charm if it's not, you know, totally uniform. Oh, I wish tomatoes were back in season. They're alright, but they just don't, you know, have that smell that just hits you in the summertime, you know, when you get tomatoes, especially around the Midwest. Reminds me of, you know, tomato crops that my family had when I was a kid. You know, it wasn't a big farm or anything, it was just something they had in their backyard, but tomatoes, especially when they're fresh, homegrown, are wonderful. Now onto the cilantro. And it's a big bag. Okay. You can use the stems and the leaves if you want to, but since it's so cheap, I use mostly the leaves and a little bit of stem. And cilantro is one of those things that, while it is awesome, you have to kind of find delicate balance of how much you need to use, and I think that's just something that kind of comes with experience. I wish I could give you a little bit more insight than that, but it's just kind of been my personal experience with it. And about this much here, about, I don't know, probably about a good handful. And we don't have, as long as you don't have, as long as you don't have the like big thick stems in it, it should be okay. And I just, you know, start going at it like this. I wish you could smell this. Cilantro has an absolutely intoxicating smell to it. It's probably one of the great aspects of it in cooking. It's one of the things that Asian food and Mexican food have in common, surprisingly, is that They both use cilantro extensively, which might explain why there's a lot of Asian and Mexican food fusion, like particularly Korean food crossing over with Mexican food. Now we're going to add the very last ingredient. Garlic. Oh wait, not last. Second to last, rather. There's one more thing we'll need to add after this. Okay. Probably about this much. Maybe a little more. I love garlic. Garlic is an essential part of this recipe. Actually, I needed that fork. It's okay though. We can rinse it off. Adds that zing to it. And now we're going to add salt, kosher salt. I want to add a pretty good amount. There. Now we'll stir it up and taste test it. Smells great. It's nice and chunky, colorful. Just got the fresh smell of the citrus from the lime and the lemon. Looks like just the right amount of cilantro is in here, and you can kind of tell because you don't see too much cilantro in it, but you can see it like speckled, here and there whenever you look at it. You don't want it to be fully loaded. And how I'm going to test it is, how else? Tortilla chips, right? Kingdom for a chip. Alright. Let's see. Perfect. It's got just the right amount of acidity. Doesn't need any more salt. The garlic level is there. You can taste that it's there. It's got the freshness of the cilantro. It's seasoned well. It's creamy. It's got the chunkiness of the tomato and a little bit of the onion with the bite of the jalapeno coming through. Everything about this is good to go. So we can serve it for dinner tonight. And I'll see you on the flip side when we are eating our burritos. Buenos noches. Okay, so we got the guacamole laid out over here. Tortillas over here. Tomatoes. Lettuce. Queso fresco. Taco meat. Sour cream. And we got some tortilla chips back here, so we got everything we need for a delicious little meal that we're going to have here in a couple of minutes. So hope you guys enjoyed the recipe for the guacamole, and if If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Oh, one more thing. What I did when I was, right before I drained the lemon juice and the lime juice, I didn't show this on camera. It helps if you grab the lemon or the lime and you kind of just roll it out and flip it over and then roll it out again. That'll loosen the fibers, the connective tissue around the fruit on the inside, and it makes it easier to drain the juice. So just remember that little tip, and it should help you out. So, okay. Good night, my friends. If you have any other questions, just leave them in the video comment section, and have a good night. Thank you. Oh, by the way, this awesome gigantic chocolate cake that is 4 layers, that's loaded with chocolate ganache. It was made by my lovely wife Sally, and if you want the recipe, just pester her, and this is to my friends on Facebook who are watching this video. Pester her for the recipe and she should be able to help you out with it. Okay. Alright, that's it. Good night.